Hello, welcome, and thanks for joining us on this edition of News 2. I'm Sandra Gumansing. After Governor John DeYoung informed Hovensa of the rejection of the Fourth Amendment agreement, questions arise as to whether the territory has enough fuel stores. But there are those who say the Virgin Islands has other options outside of Hovensa. News 2's April Knight has more.
When the senators said no deal to Hovensa on the Fourth Amendment agreement, Hovensa responded with a shrug and a nod, saying it will close the fuel racks on St. Croix when supplies run out. But how much fuel is left exactly, Hovensa wouldn't say. Residents are getting concerned about a possible fuel shortage. But there were some who saw trouble coming from far away and acted early. Croix Island Energy, a major fuel distributor for St. Thomas and St. John, said it became unwise to keep all their eggs in one basket.
We lifted 90-95% of our fuel from the Hovensa rack. With the foreseen closing of the refinery and potentially the loading rack, I've picked up 6 different options for lifting fuel.
Some gas distributors are saying that the closing of the Hovensa fuel racks on St. Croix does not mean the end of the world for the territory, and that there are other options for getting fuel in.
Really should not be a problem. They're huge oil companies. They can get it out of the States, they can get it out of the Gulf, they can get it from Europe, Canada. They just bring in the larger tankers and distribute it from this terminal.
The current Hovensa predicament does not look like much of a problem for St. Thomas.
There's 2 large terminals on St. Thomas that can supply the islands with gasoline very easily.
But how about for St. Croix, which relies largely on Hovensa's fuel stores?
We could be lifting fuel out of the terminals here in St. Thomas and taking it over to St. Croix. And I've talked to the people over at Bunkers, and they're prepared to accept fuel from any one of our suppliers.
There's also the option of lifting fuel from neighboring islands.
I've talked to one of our suppliers in Puerto Rico, and they're gearing up, ready to go. We can do supply St. Croix just as easily as we do St. Thomas.
And as for fears of a fuel shortage and stocking up on gas while it lasts,
I think the worst thing for people to do would be start tanking up. That will create a shortage. They should just continue as usual. There's plenty of options to get gasoline.
April Knight, News 2.
Now, Governor DeYoung still awaits reports from the Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs and the Department of Parks and Natural Resources on the current status of the territory's resources. Meanwhile, residents on the Big Island have a lot to say in regards to this issue. News 2's Shaniqua Robinson has more.
Hovensa's plan to shut down the fuel rack once current supplies are finished has left many questions in the air. Residents throughout the community are concerned about how the Virgin Islands government is going to solve this gas issue.
If they are no longer here to get the gas, where will we be getting it from? So it's something that should really concern our citizens of St. Croix as to where we're going to get the purchase from. But anyhow you look at it, it could turn out to be very expensive if we have to check anywhere outside of the island to get the gas.
According to the government, the company is required to operate a refinery and to make sure that there are adequate fuel supplies in storage to meet the territory's needs. However, Hovensa contends it has no obligation in the existing agreement to operate a refinery, and without a refinery, it also has no obligation to maintain adequate fuel supplies for local consumption. One resident mentioned that the cost of life is already too high and that things are going to get worse.
The Hovensa issue, I'll be moving next year. The price of gas is going to be too hard. So by next year time, I'm gone.
Another resident does not feel the issue is the first of its kind.
No, I know for sure that a couple other gas stations don't actually get their fuel on island. So I really don't think the gas prices are going to go up significantly as to what maybe, what people may think. However, time will tell.
The government house is currently investigating alternative options for supplying the island of St. Croix with gasoline.
I think we can get past it, but in order to get past anything, you have to come to the table and come to an agreement, and obviously an agreement that will work better for the people of the Virgin Islands of St. Croix.
Shaniqua Robinson, News 2.
Be sure to count on 2 to keep you updated on the issue. Recently, the Virgin Islands Housing Management informed residents residing at LBJ Housing Community that they must choose another place to live by the end of this month and vacate their current homes by December. Housing Management says this is due to the poor condition of the property that resulted in plans for demolition. Meanwhile, Senator Alicia Chucky Hansen is investigating what her office sees as a gradual takeover of a beachfront property currently occupied by housing communities and says she will get to the bottom of this matter. NEWS2 will keep you updated. Well, the territory is one step closer to achieving a standardized addressing system. The Lieutenant Governor's office announced Monday that the street addressing pilot projects are nearing completion. They only have to install the street signs, and address numbers have to be posted before they're complete. NEWS2's Erica Parsons has more.
The Virgin Islands needed a standardized addressing system.
That's what government officials were told before they embarked on the street addressing initiative 3 years ago. Now the pilot part of that project is almost complete.
Basically, we have the signs that we need to have installed. We need to purchase first and then have them installed, and the labeling on the properties.
Getting those signs in place is the last step in the process. Almost 1,500 parcels in Monbijou, downtown Charlotte-Amalie, and Cruz Bay now have new addresses. It puts the territory closer to achieving a standardized addressing system. The pilots were done so the Lieutenant Governor's office and their partners could get the experience, see how the process works, and how communities would react to it.
As soon as we can get all our funding in place, we anticipate, at some point, maybe let's say in the area of 2 years or so, that we can complete this overall project.
$2.5 million is what they would need to move the entire territory to a new addressing system. In addition to all the other advantages, it would help to save lives.
The overall base of the project is to get that standardized addressing system in place so that law enforcement, emergency responders, and like I said, tourists, and all the residents in our community can have something to use to find locations.
Home and business owners with new addresses are urged to post a new address number where it's visible from the street. WAPA, Innovative, Vitima 911, and the Postal Service already have the information. Overall, officials say the pilots went well, and now 3 communities in both districts have brand new addresses.
People may think, well, I don't see anything new about anything. In our geospatial information, we have it. You can go on our website and look at the viewer, and you'll literally see these addresses on there.
Erica Parsons, NEWS2.
The Lieutenant Governor's office still needs neighborhoods, communities, and homeowners to submit ideas for street names. You can call the Lieutenant Governor's office or go to their website to do so. Well, copper wire thieves have struck again. Innovative Telephone has experienced another outage due to copper wire theft to the company's outside plant telecommunications facilities on the island of St. Croix. Within the last 4 weeks, there have been 6 incidents of copper wire theft for Innovative Telephone. Last night, 2 spans of 400 pair cable were stolen, leaving over 130 subscribers in Morningstar, Salt River, Marina, and Gentle Winds condos out of telecommunication services. Innovative's outside plant technical team continue the work. Prior incidents in the last 4 weeks include Estate Glen, Estate Calcahoon, Estate Concordia, Salt River Marina, and Gentle Winds condos. Purposeful disruption of telecommunication services is a federal offense because it may affect the ability of emergency responders and other individuals to communicate. Innovative has enlisted the aid of both the local and federal authorities in apprehending these perpetrators. The Virgin Islands Water and Power Authority also decries the continuing theft of copper that is adversely affecting utility operations and plaguing the Virgin Islands community. According to Hugo Hodge, repairs to street lights on St. Croix's Melvin Evans Highway have been severely stymied because of theft of copper wire, which has left long spans of highway in darkness. Thieves have made off with over 19,000 feet of wire from the highway lights. Cutting and stealing power lines is a criminal act that carries very stiff consequences, which can include loss of limbs or life from electrocution. It is very dangerous. The Coast Guard, British Royal Navy, and U.S. law enforcement partners seized 1,500 pounds of cocaine, a go-fast vessel, and also detained 3 suspected smugglers during an at-sea interdiction Friday in the Caribbean Sea. The drug shipments estimated to have a value of more than $24 million. The interdiction was a result of an international multi-agency law enforcement effort. Since September 12, 2012, the Coast Guard has seized 20,500 kilograms of cocaine and 8,500 pounds of marijuana during the 22 law enforcement interdictions under Operation Unified Resolve in partnership with regional law enforcement authorities in the Caribbean. The wholesale value for these seizures is worth more than $690.3 million. Well, supporters of ousted Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi returned to the streets today to protest the deadly government crackdown that killed at least more than 600 people. President Obama says the cycle of violence in Egypt needs to stop. CBS's Alfonso Van Marsh reports from London. And keeping our eye on the economy, the number of Americans filing new claims for unemployment benefits fell to a new 6-year low last week, and consumer prices rose in July while inflation remained tame. Stocks were also under pressure after more big-name companies failed to live up to Wall Street's expectations. This is the New York Stock Exchange. The Scotiabank Stock Market Watch. The Dow, Nasdaq, S&P all down. The Dow 225, Nasdaq 63, S&P 24. Coming up on News 2, archival footage revealing interviews and a panel discussion from those who knew him. Emile Griffith, the award-winning 2005 documentary Ring of Fire, the Emile Griffith story, will be shown as a tribute to the Virgin Islands hero. We'll be right back. Jason Richards, a soon-to-be senior at the St. Croix Educational Complex, took first place in the 2013 Congressional Black Caucus Spouses Essay Contest. This contest was open to high school sophomores and juniors, and students were presented with a topic that embodies some communities' most pressing issues and were asked to write an essay to defend their research, analysis, and opinion. Jason will receive a scholarship award of $1,500, which will be presented to him in September at the CBC Spouses Issue Forum, held during the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation's annual legislative conference in Washington, D.C. Congratulations. Well, who was Emile Griffith? Do our young people know why our ballpark is named after the hero? Well, an opportunity to learn more is coming up. The award-winning 2005 documentary Ring of Fire, the Emile Griffith story, will be shown as a tribute to the Virgin Islands hero. Now pay special attention to the background music. It was a recording by the VI boxing champ recorded July 11th, 1966. Emile Griffith rose to fame in the 1960s. He was born in St. Thomas on February 3rd, 1938. He left the island as a teenager and relocated to New York and made a name for himself in the world of boxing.
He made a name for himself against great odds because he he was born in Savannah, right behind the Catholic Church. There's an empty lot there with a ruin on it. He grew up with his grandmother, who was a great influence in his life. He migrated to New York City, worked in a hat factory, and was recognized by someone in terms of his physique.
With a record of 112 total fights, with 85 wins, 23 of them by knockout, it's no wonder he stood out. In 1990, he was inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame.
Emile wasn't necessarily the fastest. He wasn't necessarily the strongest. He wasn't the best technician. But back in his days, you fought 15 rounds, and you had to be prepared to go 15 rounds because he was going to go 15 rounds and still ready to go longer. So you may be ahead early, but by the end, Emile usually was going to hunt you down and finish you because he was tenacious and he had a heart of a lion.
Ring of Fire filmmakers Dan Flores and Ron Berger used archival footage revealing interviews with family members, boxers, and Griffith himself to share victorious stories of how he rose to fame, and including some sad moments, including the famous 1962 title bout between him and rival boxing champion Benny Paret that changed him and the boxing world.
The documentary speaks of his life. The latter part of his life was one where he struggled. He struggled economically to sustain himself, and likewise his health conditions.
I'm so glad that the producers of that made such a movie that covered not only what he did in the ring, but more importantly, what he was as a man overall, and the lessons that others can learn from his life. Of course, we know of the tragedy with Benny Kid Paret. We also know of his bisexual lifestyle. All of these are issues, you know, how dangerous is the sport of boxing and violent sports in general. And of course, the issue of homosexuality is probably one of the biggest issues in our society today.
After the screening, a panel discussion and a display of photographs will be viewed.
I have been judging boxing fights for the last 15 years. I had the pleasure of meeting him on at least 3 or 4 occasions on his different trips back to the Virgin Islands. I found him a most gracious, humble, approachable, personable sporting figure that I've ever met. He was a living legend, and now he'll be a historical legend as long as there is a Virgin Islands. As long as people participate in sports, the name of Emile Griffith will be among those names discussed.
Emile Griffith passed away July 23, 2013 at the age of 75. Again, the tribute will be held from 6 to 9:30 p.m. on Friday, August 16th at the Prior Julek Hall at Antilles School. And another tribute will be held on Saturday night. Of course, it's the Boxing in Paradise, scheduled for 7 p.m. on August 17th at the Mark C. Marine Center. Special thanks to Professor Alex Randall for providing the music from the champ on the 45 RPM record. Well, a cyclone formed just days before the start of the Cape Verde's hurricane season. Tropical Depression 5, Aaron, began to form Wednesday evening in the far east Atlantic near the Cape Verde Islands. The depression is expected to initially strengthen to a tropical storm sometime soon and then eventually weaken. Some models show the tropical depression will degenerate into a tropical wave by the end of the 5-day forecast period, and it is not clear whether it might come near the territory. Be sure to count on 2. Speaking of which, your News 2 AccuWeather forecast is coming up next.